economic dilemma, real bad. And for 1,000, 1,100 people lose their job for you to abstain, really, you just didn't even vote to me.
Well, let me explain to you. Yeah, go ahead. You got more time.
And so we have another development that come up too. And to me, this is just my view, just speaking as an individual. It's principles, not personalities. We cannot never let our personalities interfere with a community that will suffer behind a person's individual agenda. And to me, your agendas will affect this community. Either any city councilman who sit there with their own agenda and not listen to the people who put you up there. And when we cry out, real loud voice, save us. You know, we have another a big development that come up too. 15,000 jobs. Then we got this one with another job coming up. If you abstain from that and Mr. Butts abstain from that one, we cookies. We're gonna be to a desert land in Richmond. Nobody gonna live, ain't no work here. Ain't no work anywhere in this state right now. So, you know, you gotta realize those jobs are very vital to the teachers. Either we ain't paying no taxes, we pay real taxes. You know, they take $1,000 out of my check every week. And I don't even see it. I don't complain because it has to go to something that's viable to our community. I pay city taxes too, so I get taxed everywhere I go. But when we come up as a community to y'all up there, and you don't hear us, that's your own agenda. You know, when everybody voted, I'm like, I was really dumbfounded.
All right, let me share. First of all, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming tonight to share your views. Thank you for coming at the last city council meeting. I proposed a substitute motion to that resolution brought forward by a couple other council members, stating that I think a settlement in this Chevron lawsuit that is fair to all parties needs to occur so that all the workers can get back to work. Workers from wherever. We know that those 1,000 workers are not all from Richmond. We have double-digit, you're right, double-digit, 17% unemployment in Richmond. And this morning I was at Richmond Build and graduated something like, gosh, I don't know how many, over 20, probably close to 30 young graduates from Richmond Build. These are, you know, moving into construction, to carpentry, electricians, solar installation. We really know the green job market is the market of the future. And that intersects with trades because we're going to have solar panels embedded on rooftops for carpenters to install. So things will certainly, the green economy is going to in fact impact all of us and bring people to work, and new skills need to be learned. On top of the old skills that are already well learned by so many. So that resolution was something that I tried to adapt in some way that I felt was fair to all the parties because the environmental issues of the Chevron project are a big concern. There was some back and forth, as you heard, with different council members. And my view was that we needed to make sure, there are some concerns of mine about the greenhouse gas emissions, and so I abstained because I felt that the resolution had so many good pieces, like the fact that we need good jobs and we need clean air. And so I stated that. I said I support so much of this, but that one piece I thought needed to be elaborated more on the greenhouse gas emissions to make sure that, you know, that is addressed significantly and is not, you know, is not addressed. We know that we don't want any loopholes to occur in terms of how mitigation is allowed in this project, where, you know, Chevron could be further impacting our health and the more greenhouse gas emissions, also the more other pollutants that people breathe in, and we know we have, you know, among the highest rates of asthma and such. So I do see your point. I believe it. I believe we can get there. The jobs, I think there are, you know, plenty that we can get the jobs to happen and the project to move forward in a healthy way. So I'm with you and trying to find that solution.
I just want to add this one point.
Yeah.
Everybody sitting here.
Yeah.
The stipulations why that contract is not being signed because they want zero emissions. No refinery. Repeat to you again. No refinery does zero emissions. You can't even drive a car without zero. I know what I'm talking about. They want that word zero in there. That's unheard. You can't do that because if you drive your car has to be on the machine to see if it's pushing out certain emissions before you get a smoke.
I don't think anybody's looking for zero emissions. We just don't want any more than we've already got. Yeah.
Okay.
Matt, just have a question.
Here from Mechanic Bank. stating their opposition to the Chevron shutdown. And I was kind of shocked when a bank actually takes a position, because they're normally just don't commit to any kind of position because they're serving the community. But this letter just came out yesterday, and it's addressed to the Chevron, City of Richmond, citizens in Richmond. But the bottom line is, why do we continuously bash Chevron? I was unaware of a lot of this, but since this issue came up that they shut that down, and even before that, how come we keep doing that? Chevron is the '1 company in California. In my book, since I've studied it a little bit, they are an exemplary company. The people in Richmond, the leaders, do not support Chevron. There's constant picking on them, and I have no idea why that is. They've given millions and millions and millions of dollars to the city of Richmond for community purposes. And as far as these environmental groups, I'd just like to read only 3 lines plus. Worst of all, the reason given for opposing Chevron plant upgrade doesn't stand up to scrutiny, despite opponents' claims of environmental degradation. The City of Richmond, the State Attorney General's Office, and the Bay Area Quality Control Management District concluded after 4 years of review that the refinery upgrade would actually reduce emissions. So, in my opinion, they have people, this took 4 years to come to the thing where they gave them a permit, and I know you and Tom Butt and somebody else voted against giving them the permit, but I would kind of hold up the people that did an environmental impact report, and for the judge to say it was incomplete after 4 years of putting it together. Now, to me, you've just taken a big dagger and thrown it into the heart of the city for economic reasons and for all other reasons. And this stuff, it's not just 1,100 jobs you lost. The ripple effect throughout the community is a lot bigger. Now, there's nobody that would support Chevron putting out more pollution. Some of the equipment they're replacing is from the 30s. But why don't we have somebody that's, in my opinion, responsible to stand up and say something? We don't have people that take Chevron and give them some accolades. They're always looked at in the public eye as some kind of villains. They are not villains. I don't believe they're villains. If we didn't have oil companies, our society would be third world completely. So my opinion is, why do we do this? Do you have any reason why we do this?
I can share with you my thoughts on that. First of all, no one is bashing Chevron. People are saying, I am saying, Chevron needs to do the right thing. Now, the letter you refer to has some inaccuracies in it. First of all, and you spoke to it yourself, a judge has ruled that the EIR was flawed. That is a fact. That EIR that this letter is referring to has been declared by a judge as flawed. Now, in terms of Chevron's being placed in the community, I think Chevron would do a lot better if it would pay its fair share of taxes. We have Chevron suing the city over a voter-passed Measure T that would bring in millions of dollars to use for so many programs: violence prevention, jobs, healthy aspects of the city's agenda setting to build a better community and a healthier community. Chevron is also appealing its property taxes on the county, which a portion of that comes to Richmond, a portion of that comes to the school district. Chevron is appealing that. Chevron is also appealing or suing or saying it should not have to pay a certain element of its taxes on, it's something to do with their hazardous materials fee or something. So there is they're trying to get away without paying more taxes on that level. They have not paid their full 10% of utility users tax in the city of Richmond for years. And we believe that amounts to, hundreds of millions of dollars that the city of Richmond has missed out on. So we believe, many of us believe, that Chevron would do better with the community at large if it would pay its fair share of taxes, and if it would simply agree to make some statements in regard to the Chevron Refinery project to assure that they would not be refining dirtier crude oil, which is known to pollute a great deal more. They have not been willing to make that statement up front in the EAR, right, sign on the dotted line. So we have some, but I believe, like I said to Antoine earlier, I think Antoine left, I believe that solutions can be worked out, and I want to keep encouraging settlement talks, because there is a way forward, and, I believe Chevron can still make its billions of dollars in profit. They made $24 billion in profit last year. Now, if they pay their fair share of taxes, and if they don't cut corners on the refinery project and do a good refinery project, and they should replace those boilers that were created in the 1930s. But they, in fact, chose, and this was before any kind of work injunction, they chose to not build that piece of the refinery upgrade, the refinery renewal project. That piece of it, which many of us thought was the best piece of the project, they chose not to move forward with, because they said, well, with the economic climate the way it is, we have to not, we have to cut back on some things. So I hear your concern that you want to make sure fairness is there. I want to make sure fairness is there too. Big multi-billion-dollar companies have an obligation, while they make their billions, to help the communities by way of fair taxation in the cities in which they reside.
Why?
Excuse me, it's 6:30. We have from 5:30 to 6:30. I am sorry that everyone's question didn't get answered. If you'd like to perhaps ask your questions but not expect an answer today, you can email the mayor's office. But we really have to wrap up and leave, and I do apologize if we didn't get a chance to your.
And you're probably going to beat me.
You're not a chess.
All right, did you get a picture? Next time you're going to show me how to play chess, okay? Sure.
That's good. That was Mayor McLaughlin, thank you for your time. Off camera, we were talking about the idea that somehow that you haven't talked to Chevron. Can you clarify if that's the case or not?
That's not the case. I've had many meetings with Chevron, and I met with Mike Coyle, Dean O'Hare, their new community relations person, Heather Culp, I believe her name is, and I continue to engage with Chevron. That's a fact.
Follow up, and this is from a person who's worked in economic development. You're talking about tax reductions, and I found that in the South, it seems that the public sector is wanting to really negotiate with the business in such a way that the business stays. But it seems like here there's an issue regarding tax reduction. Or am I misreading that?
No.
Because there's an idea that you can't do business in California, and you kind of center on some of the touchstone points. Can you clarify what you mean about tax reductions, and because that's an economic development tool. Those are classic tools in economic development.
The issue you're asking me about is Chevron's refusal to pay their taxes in Richmond.
Can't something be negotiated or mitigated so that it's
the voters
comfortable for
passed
both?
a measure, a tax measure, in 2008, Measure T, which brings about a new amount of money from large manufacturers, predominantly Chevron, but large manufacturers in general, after a certain amount of surplus raw materials.
Right.
And Chevron has taken us to court on that. And so it's taken the voters of Richmond to court. So,
Right, that's what
so
people-
our city attorney is, and our special attorney is fighting that and defending the will of the voters.
Yeah, there's
and then there's the property tax that they're
Right,
appealing.
right.
And then there's the utility users tax that they've had a cap on for several years, for decades. And without that cap, they would have to pay their 10% of utility users tax, just like every other taxpayer in the city of Richmond. So without that tax, we estimate that millions of dollars would have come, without that cap, which is a loophole, a special perk for Chevron, the only taxpayer who's ever used that. The city of Richmond would have millions of more money coming into it.
Is there a way that we can, in the future, go where in the old days we didn't go to court, businesses actually worked with the public sector, and we got something that was good for both parties, as
Well,
opposed
you
to
know,
court
I
all the
think
time?
that's, we certainly would love to have that happen. It's Chevron who is suing the city of Richmond over Measure T. You know, when we as a government, as city government official, it's my responsibility to protect the health and the fiscal responsibility of the city in relationship to its citizens. And I think fair taxation is a key piece of that fiscal responsibility. And I think those in the city who have the most, these large corporations, have an obligation to pay the most, and that's fair taxation. And you know, they've for over 100 years they have operated in Richmond, and at grave cost to the people of Richmond health-wise. We have among the highest rates of asthma, heart disease, all kinds of respiratory problems. While they've made billions of dollars. Now, you know, they are a for-profit company and they will continue to make large profits, but paying their fair share of taxes is something we believe they can do without hurting at all, you know, and we believe the community needs to have, to rise. And, you know, that we know that these huge gaps in wealth in our country, and Richmond represents it. We have some of the poorest communities and some of the most wealthy corporations.
Right.
And as a result of that, we know that countries that have these huge gaps in wealth also have massive problems.
Right.
I do see, Roseanne, I want to talk with you. I didn't know this was going to be a press conference. This is my meeting with residents.
Okay, right. The meeting's over, and that's why I waited till the end.
Well, I had said I would meet with a couple of them afterwards, so.
Right. I understand that. I'm assuming giving you a platform to clarify, it's not an ambush.
Yeah, no, I like that. Okay, I'm hoping that's true.
No,
Is that true?
It was.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of the mayor's response?
I thought it was very shallow and not grounded with reality. When you're talking about this constant $24 billion profit, it's not, why don't we say Chevron did $100 and some billion in business and made $24 billion. Don't just hang $24 billion out on the hook, because $24 billion is a huge amount. But Chevron, as I think I know, they make less than 9% profit on the amount of business they do. Less than, I think that's right. And I'm culturally and educationally handicapped, so I don't know a bunch of stuff. But I do know that Chevron, Microsoft makes about 28% profit on their business, but Chevron, think of what they do. Think of what they do. They got these boneheads that stole all this money, the banks, the security companies, and the rest of it. And the bottom line is, an oil company, what do they have to do? It's pretty impressive, I think.
In talking to the mayor afterwards, she seems to paint the picture that Chevron's sort of being a bad community employer. I mean, basically,
Chevron is an exemplary company, and I would like to, you know, debate anybody from what little I know. I don't own any of their stock. I don't know anything, but I do know some people that work there, and everything I've ever heard is positive, positive, and positive. And I don't know why people want to bash them. I have no idea.
What's up with the mayor?
Well, what's up with the mayor? She's probably on her personal horse. We've got to work for the people and as a whole, not a polarized group against another group. If Chevron is not paying some taxes, guess what? All you got to do is, when they send me my tax bill, I just pay it. And if I want to appeal it, I will appeal it. But you can't just say Chevron won't pay their fair share of taxes. I don't think anybody's got that right if it's a valid tax bill. So that's my opinion, and I don't agree with the Chevron bashing. I've been to some of those meetings before they gave them the permit to do the project. and there was some people in front of Kennedy High School. They were on the speakerphone saying, "Now, if anybody here knows somebody that's died from pollution from Chevron, would you come up to the table?" Well, that's crazy. That's crazy that anybody thinks somebody knows they died of pollution from Chevron. So anyway.
Hey, what's your name, by the way?
Richard Lampa.
Richard, thanks for your time.
Yeah, I'll give you my